Greetings all, and welcome to Daily Pali Reading. Today we are beginning Chapter 2 of the Dhammapada. This is the chapter on vigilance, or the Appamada Vago. We'll talk more about Appamada, this word vigilance, momentarily. Appamado amatapadang, pamado machuno padang, appamata namiyanti. Ye pamata yata mata. So our first clause here is a nominal clause. There is no verb. We have to understand some form of the verb to be. We have appamado. This is masculine nominative singular. And this is the opposite. The meaning of this word is the opposite of pamado. Pamado would mean something like carelessness, negligence, just kind of going about doing your own thing. So appamado is the opposite of that, the opposite of negligence. So sometimes you'll hear this translated as vigilance, carefulness, not just mindlessly going throughout life. So those are the many meanings of appamado. And here the Buddha is telling us appamado is amatapadang. Amatapadang is a tapurisa, and it means the path. Padang is a path. We have to understand something like leading to amata, which is composed of a and mata. Mata goes back to the same root as like the Latin mors, or like we get the word mortician, just has to do with death. Same here. The Sanskrit root is given as mur, if I can pronounce that correctly. So amata is the opposite of death, the deathless state, maybe. Actually, the primary meaning of this word is the nectar that the gods would drink that would grant immortality. This word, amurtang, comes up in verse 3 of the Bhakti Sutras of Narada. And the edition I read is from Prem Prakash. He makes a good point, that the amurtang is nourishment. And so we can kind of understand, even in this context, that vigilance is the path to not just the deathless state, it's the path to this nectar of immortality, this nectar that nourishes us. This is, again, why translating is a little difficult. We have to settle on a word, but, I suppose we could always footnote it. That would be the best course of action, to explain that a word like this has a depth to it that one word alone cannot convey. Pamado machuno padang. Pamado, as we said, is negligence, carelessness, and again, an equational sentence. And here we are informed that pamado is also a path. And here the path is machuno. Now, machu is the god of death. Machuno is the genitive form. So we could see that pamado is death's path. Now, machuno in form is also dative. And we could translate this as the path to the god of death. And I don't know that that is wrong. It's very possible. But we should remind ourselves that the destination or the goal of motion in Pali Sanskrit is expressed in the accusative. And that's true in English too. We can still say, I'm going home. And that's why we have this variant reading here. If we look back, we see instead of amatapadang, we have amatang padang. And this is exactly what we just described here. Padang understood going to, leading to amatang. Whereas in this second clause, I think that is being connected with death. It is death's path. And we'll kind of see that in the fourth clause here in a moment. Appamata na miyanti. So appamata comes from the same root as appamada, but here this is a past participle functioning as an adjective, and it is plural. We see this long A here. So the vigilant, those who are vigilant, na, do not, miyanti. Miyanti is to die. It's actually the passive form of marati, which goes back to this same mer root. Ye is our relative pronoun, masculine nominative plural. Those who, pamatta, are careless, are heedless. Again, this is the past participle functioning as an adjective, masculine nominative plural. From pamadati is the actual verb. Yata is an adverb, as or like, and mata is a past participle of madati, to die. And here it's functioning as an adjective as well. Those who are pamatta, those who are careless, are, another nominal sentence, as dead. They are like the dead. It isn't that someday they will die. They are like the dead now. It's not too hard to miss, but we will point out, and we've got it here in red, that this word death comes up 4 times here, once in each clause. And maybe the most striking statement here is that apamata, those who are vigilant and careful, na miyanti, they don't die. Now, obviously, this does not mean that those who are vigilant, that their bodies don't cease functioning. That isn't the kind of death that's being talked about here. And we can get a sense of that because the Buddha tells us that those who are not vigilant, the careless, are already dead, are like the dead now. And so I think we have to understand the dead and to die as meaning samsara, trapped in samsara. I think some people believe that if you die and your sort of consciousness or your soul is reborn in a heavenly realm, that you somehow have escaped death. But that does not represent true liberation in Buddhist thinking or in, I think, Hindu thinking. Anytime we have individuated existence in the lowest hell to the highest heaven, we are still in samsara. We are in a changing state. The undying state is nibbana. This amatang is actually a synonym for nirvana, for escaping, for moving beyond states of existence and non-existence. And being vigilant, apamado, was so important to the Buddha that in his last words, his last instruction to his monks included this word, apamadena sampadeta, meaning achieve your goal with vigilance. And one last point regarding this word apamado, it can sometimes seem strange that the Buddha takes this negative, he takes pamado as the base and then negates it. And this also happens with something like avera, as in sabe satta avera hontu. Why doesn't the Buddha use a different word for, say, benevolence? Why does he start with the negative term? And I think that it's simply because that's where we begin our journeys. We begin from places of egocentricity and of greed and anger and heedlessness. So the Buddha also starts there and says that we need to be the opposite of all of these things.